welcome back to yet another video. This week is Halloween week, which means I need to make something spooky to celebrate. And it seems as though my TikTok account knew this because it has been showing me spooky video after spooky video after spooky video, including this one here where I saw a dress that I just absolutely had to own immediately. It looks as though you can actually buy this dress from Black Castle clothing, so if you want to buy the exact dress that this lovely lady here on TikTok was wearing, I will link it down below and you can find it there. However, I'm a seamstress, I sew things, and I have too much faith in my own abilities, and with that we are going to recreate the spooky dress that I saw on TikTok for Halloween. Let's get started. To tackle this project I have a whole series of patterns, the first being McCall's M4948 for the sleeves, Butterick B5748 for the bodice, Butterick 4173 for the neckline bit, and Butterick B6167 for the skirt. Let's go. Alright, so luckily enough, last time I used this pattern was for my Cardcaptor Sakura costume, and one of the alterations I made to it, which I made to the actual pattern piece itself, is I lowered the neckline of the front, which is perfect because I would need to do that again for this pattern anyway, and using this piece I can now raise the back neckline and trace off a new one which will give me the height of the back piece that I want. So that was a bit serendipitous and has saved me quite a bit of work. For fabric, I'm using this 100% cotton striped fabric from Spotlight, and it's one of my favourites. I've used it to make dresses in the past and I'm so excited to get to use it again. And so the first step is cutting out all of the pattern pieces. So I'm cutting out the bodice pieces first, but also altering the neckline of the back piece before that gets cut out too. Then I cut out the two pieces that make up the sleeve. And finally, for the stripe fabric, I cut out the skirt pieces. Next, I transfer all the notches and markings, and this is quite fun because I had to alternate between a dark transfer pen and a light transfer pen because of the stripes. Now it's on to construction. So the first thing I do is sew together the darts on the bust and the back bodice pieces. Then I iron them so that they sit nice and flat. Next, I sew the back pieces to the front by the shoulder and side seams. Then it's on to the sleeves, so first I prep them by running a gathering stitch along the top and bottom edge. Then I gather the bottom edge of the sleeve so that it fits along the top edge of the bottom portion of the sleeve. Once I'm happy with how the gathers are sitting, I then sew the top part of the sleeve to the bottom part of the sleeve. Now that the sleeve is one giant being, I fold it in half and sew the seam here. Next, I gather the top part of the sleeve and I sew it onto the bodice. Ta-da! I wish it was this easy. Now it's onto the skirts, and if you want to get technical, technically I added a fifth pattern to this because as you can see I've added pockets to the skirt. Anyway, first thing I'm doing here is sewing up the side seams. And once that's done, I gather the top edge of the skirt and then I sew that to the bodice as well. Please don't mind my hair, I'm doing something with it, I promise, and it will make sense at the end of this video. Anyway, the base dress is practically done. It's just missing the zipper in the back, but I can't do that until I do the next bit, which is filling this gaping hole here in the front. I have a theory on how I'm going to do it. I'm just going to start making that other pattern that I showed you at the beginning of the video. and hopefully just like put it in and cover it. But as of today, I'm too tired to be doing that, so I'll see you guys back tomorrow morning. Hello and welcome back to a brand new day. So as you can see, I've put the top in and I've done a little flouncy flounce on the sleeve. I'll show you how I did that right now. For this portion of the dress, I used a 100% cotton black fabric. Okay, so to fill the hole, what I did was trace off the shape of the original pattern of the bodice. And then using the yoke part of that vintage pattern, I sort of traced in the neckline from it. I then added a seam allowance to the lower portion of the pattern piece. And with that, it was ready and I was able to cut it out and then cut it out of the fabric. No, I didn't do a test run of this, I just used my audacity and it worked. I'm not sure what to actually call this part of the dress, but for all intents and purposes moving forward, I will refer to it as the yoke. So this is the inside layer of the yoke because I'm making it in 2 parts. And first I sew it together at the shoulder seams and then I sew it into the neckline of the dress. Next I move on to the outside layer of the yoke, and the first thing I have to do there is put some buttons on, and I'm using these ones that I found at the thrift shop for all of $1. I spaced them 1.5 inches apart and sewed them on by hand, and that means I can now sew the outside part of the yoke into the neckline of the dress. With both sides of the yoke sewn in, I can now clip the corners or curves so that when I turn it right side out, it'll sit nice and flat. And then I run a basting stitch along the top edge of the yoke just to hold the pieces together. Hello again. So, I'm really happy with how the neckline bit is turned out. The flounce though, I think is just a little bit too long. I think I'm actually going to halve it and that would be the perfect length. However, I have run out of the black material, so I need to go get some more of that. But before I do, I want to put a zipper in the back just to test the fit of how this is fitting. So I'll do that, I'll get some more fabric and we'll be right back. Actually, forget everything I said about the sleeve flounce. I think it's the perfect length, it's real cool and spooky and fun. So yeah, we're going to do the other one exactly the same as this one. And this is where I introduce pattern number 6. So I'm using a Vogue pattern V9328 and I'm just using the flounce bit here, which I'm cutting out of the same fabric that the neckline was cut out of. And to make the flounce, I just sew right around the outer edge of it and then I trim that back using some pinking shears. And then it gets turned right side out, pressed and sewn to the sleeve. Next it's onto the collar piece, which I didn't have a pattern for, so I just winged it. So I traced off a 2.5 inch bit of fabric, folded in half, and then I cut that out. Then I unfold it and then I sew along this edge here to create one long noodle. Next, along one of the edges of the noodle, I trace off the seam allowance. This will be the hemmed edge of the neckline so that when it's folded in half and ironed, as it is here, I can then fold that seam allowance part back, and so when I go to hand stitch it into the neckline of the actual bodice itself, it'll make everything a lot easier for myself. Next I fold the noodle in half right sides together and sew either end of the noodle closed. Then I trim away the excess fabric and turn it right side out. Next I run some gathering stitches along the bottom edge of it and gather it down until it can fit into the neckline of the bodice. Where of course the first edge gets sewn to the neckline by the machine. And then I spend an absolute age hand sewing the inside of the collar to the neckline. Hello, me again. So, for the hem of the skirt, I'm thinking I want to do something I've never attempted before, which is always a good sign, but it's called a blind hem. Usually I just roll my hem over twice or overlock it and call it a day, but a blind hem should give a nice finish along the bottom and it's practically invisible. Anyway, I was reading through the instruction manual of my sewing machine and it has all these instructions on how to do a blind hem, including a foot that uses it too. So I'm going to do that and just hope that it works the first time. Audacity, right?
And the first thing I do is measure up a hem that is 1.5 inches from the bottom edge so that I can have a nice and straight guideline to help me do this. Then I fold the bottom edge up according to the instructions that were in my manual. And then using the blind hem foot and the stitch that my machine recommended, I go to town on the machine and let it do its thing. I was a bit nervous doing it in the beginning, but then I quite quickly got the hang of it and it was really easy from then out. Finally, all that was left to do was to unfold it and iron it in place.
This is a blind hem finish. Do you guys see how nice that is? Like, I swear I am finishing every single project I do now with this hem, because look at it. I don't know if this is in focus, but look at it. It's beautiful. It's finished. Do you guys want to see it on? I want to see it on. Let's go. And there you have it. That is my recreation of a dress that I found on TikTok. I'm stoked with how this turned out. I think it looks pretty much identical to the one that I saw online. The only real difference is my sleeve things are a little bit longer than theirs, but I don't care. It's fun, it's dramatic, it's spooky. Really comfortable. Suppose that's down to it being all natural fabrics again. Very spooky. Stripes. I love it. There's not much more I can say about it. In future, I probably will wear it with a different belt. The elastic's kind of shot in this one, so it's not cinching me in as much as I would have liked, but whatever. What do you guys think? Do you guys think it turned out pretty neat? Let me know in the comment section down below. And once again, if you want to buy the actual dress that that girl was wearing, you can purchase one at Black Castle Clothing, I think it's called. I'll link it down below so that you guys can get one there as well. Anyway, with all that being said, if you like what you saw here today, please consider leaving a like, and if you really liked it, maybe even consider subscribing. I do a lot of sewing, crafting and fun related things here on this channel, and I usually try and upload every week or so. And I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye!